Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupiणे avatara varishthaye Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagatguru Padapadme Tayo Sutva Pranamami Muhu. Namaste Etirajaya Vivekachudamani Swami Shantatmananda Swamine Tapaharine. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are continuing with the introduction to Vivekachudamani. It's a difficult subject, no doubt, and also Shankaracharya is very strict, clear, and without hesitation is telling the conditions necessary for such a knowledge. सुनने के लिए थोड़ा डर ही लगता है. Maybe you are feeling hesitant because he talks so much about this idea of Vairagya. Unless it's a complete renunciation, one will not get the highest knowledge. That kind of a. You see, जीवन में हम लोग जो मर्जी करें, whatever it is. But then, one should not be afraid to listen to the truth. Sach to janna chahiye. Let us listen to the truth, then apply it the way it is possible for us. Because whatever is said cannot be followed by everybody. Is it not? It's not applicable to everyone. One should be a qualified aspirant. इसलिए अधिकारी वेद है. So let it be so, but at least let us hear the highest truth. What is it? What is it that would lead to the highest knowledge? So उसमें हम लोग डरने की कोई बात नहीं. Let's not feel put off or hesitant to hear the highest truth. You will hear it. First, Shantatmananda Swamiji are always there. They have given us a very wonderful way of approaching the ultimate in a manner which is suitable for people like us. At the same time, let's also hear the traditional view. See, Shankaracharya view, that is the most traditional approach to the highest. So let us listen to that. Let us find out what he says. And then, to the extent possible, we shall certainly incorporate it in our life or take it forward in our life. So there is no problem there. So he has again he has told clearly the Shishya that he should be very careful. Kisi vakat, due to pramada etc., he should not fall into any kind of a lesser state. He should be very careful. Should be constantly full of detachment, knowledge, and nishtha. Then he will never fall into the clutches of samsara. This is what he says. And then it is the Shishya, following the advice from a great Brahmagyani Guru, followed his instructions and obtained the real knowledge, and finally became a Jivan Mukta, said to say, according to this scripture. So finally, the last portion of this Vivekachudamani describes the ecstatic experience of the Shishya. उनका जैसे अनुभव हुआ, that is being described in the last portion, where he declares his separateness from the entire experiential world. ये जो बाहर जगत से कैसे वो संपूर्ण पृथक है, कैसे अनुभव कर रहे, he is not feeling connected to the external world at all. He clearly sees that he is different. He has no connection that way. He is able to completely separate himself, making a kind of sakshi and look at the world. And also his direct experience of non-difference from the highest truth or the Paramatman, etc. So then finally the Shankara Bhagavad-pada concludes this text saying that the Guru and the Sishya they parted company, दोनों अलग अलग चले गए. The Shishya was संपूर्ण बंधन से मुक्त होके, freed from all bonds, and the Guru continuing to sanctify the earth with his blessingful advices to other aspirants. Similarly, and that is all. Actually, this that portion, even Chandrasekhar Bharati has not given much of commentary, because even if you explain that, there will not be much use. Only those who go to the state, जिसका वो अनुभव हुआ वही समझ पाए. So that, and the introduction is written, Chandrasekhar Bharati ji has not given any commentary to this portion. There is just more or less left as it is. So in Vedanta, for knowledge, they say there are different pramanas. Mainly they talk of three pramanas. Shruti pramana, the pramana of the scriptures as taught by a teacher, and then yukti or logic, and anubhava, experience. Now, of this, they have given the highest place to the Shruti Pramana, or the Pramana of the scriptures, because Shruti is based on the experience of those who have lived the life earlier. So, that cannot be contested, that cannot be contradicted. Whereas Yukti mein, what is the problem? Someone stronger than you in logic, कुतर्क से भी आदमी हरा सकते हैं sometimes, even without proper logic also. If with using the nuances of argument, one can be defeated. So Yukti is not that dependable as Shruti. Moreover, Yukti is again at the level of the senses only. Indriya Jagat ke andar hi hai. Whereas Shruti is belonging to the Atindriya Jagat, because there is experience of great souls, seers, Mahatmans, Mahapurush, Sadhu, Sant, वगैरह. And again finally Anubhava. Anubhava is actually my Anubhava, your Anubhava, anybody's Anubhava. Without experiencing, I might think that I have already got something. So many people have never then come and say, Maharaj, I have got Samadhi, what should I do? I said, ठीक है, रहो अच्छा है. Some says Vivekananda came and told me to do such and such things. They are not, they are not trying to cheat, and they are not. That is what they have understood. So Anubhava can be quite a difficult proposition. Unless Anubhava, those who are experiencing, they are themselves fully established adhikaris. Those who are prepared for this kind of a spiritual life, they only can truly experience, and their experience ultimately again will become like Shruti only in time to come. So the safest and the best pramana which anybody can rely on, supposing I want to rely, I have not experienced, what do? I refer to the Shruti. So for majority of the people, for the sadhakas, because the sadhakas have not had experience, so anubhav ki baat hi nahi. And yukti, what's the point of yukti? More than that, is readily available the experience of great souls as described in the Shastras. So Shastra is given the highest. So, because Vedanta itself, the highest idea of Vedanta relates to a transcendental or the supersensuous world. It is Atindriya Jagatka. It is not related to the sense world. And therefore, it should rely on the Shruti, which contains the revelations by those endowed with a spiritual vision of these transcendental truths. Those who had that great experience, इनका ऐसे अनुभव हुआ, वही अनुभव के आधार पर श्रुति में कहा गया. Shruti, that's what it gives the greatest truths experienced by such extraordinary beings. So they are very trustworthy. Moreover, for ordinary people like us, who are still very much in the realm of the physical world or the world of the senses, we cannot really question. Shruti ki aise challenge karna. We cannot really challenge the scripture because we are still not in that stage. We are still at the level of the senses. So we cannot question the validity. So the statements are paramount truths. They are the highest type of pramanas for which other pramanas have no such ground or validity. So highest proof is our Shruti. So Shruti is actually is a beneficent instruction of the ultimate and is worthy of faith and reference, etc. That's why they call it as Shruti Mata in some places. So the Shishya should receive this Shruti text with absolute trust from a Guru, qualified Guru, because qualifications for Guru and Shishya are clearly prescribed in the text. So he will receive it from a Guru with full of Shraddha and with great intensity. He will meditate, practice, and then he will realize their full significance. That's why these three disciplines are Shravan, Manana, Nididhyasana are always advocated. So the Hindu tradition, in respect of this Vedantic training, emphasizes the importance of hearing the words of Shruti from the lips of the teacher, who actually, as shown earlier, treats the Shishya with great compassion and with his own benediction blessings, he really helps the Shishya realize the truth. So this has been the parampara. Shankara Bhagavad Pada and many others down the line, they have really helped many aspirants, sadhakas realize the highest truth, because the truths emanate from the mouths of someone who is himself a realized soul. Because of his own realization, it is very powerful. So if you say that if the Shruti is if you take it as a Vedantic seed of knowledge, because Shruti is only the seed, knowledge is ultimately different, it's the beginning. If that is a seed that is sown by the Guru in the soil of Shishya's mind, which is a well prepared soil with which has the qualities of really flowering, and then it is they say it is watered by the Guru's grace. Guru ki kripa ki bina. Without the grace of the Guru, it's very difficult to realize, because it's not so difficult. Not even for one birth, for several births, they say one has to struggle if necessary. So how do you get it? If there is a realized Guru, and if you are a very sincere sadhaka, he can help you go fast. And then by the Shishya's Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, is able to realize the highest truth. So this is Shankara Bhagavad Pada here also, as in many other works, he has completely developed the Advaita Siddhanta on a very scientific basis, conducting a rigorous analysis. There's very logical discussions are there. So these are all, his findings are all completely fortified by this kind of a logic or systematic analysis of the truths. He quotes Shrutis only by way of support, where it is very difficult to logically directly prove anything. As far as possible, the entire discussion is based on very scientific, elaborate analysis, discussion, etc. Now and then, in some places where it is very difficult to prove it like that very logically, he has taken the help of Shrutis, which are beyond any question. Otherwise, he has really kept a very scientific approach to the whole thing. There is no dogma, there is nothing forceful, there is nothing given that way where it is defies logic, etc. Never it is authoritative. That is why the Advaita is a tattva, is truth. It is not matha or it's not a theory. Advaita is not a theory. Advaita is truth. Satya hai. It's a matter of realization. See, you get the difference between a mata and a satya. Mata is, oh, sir, this person, Oh, he is good, he is not so good. He is dharmic, he is not dharmic. This is my opinion of it, my view. That may or may not be reserved. It's just a theory. So and so, these type of people from this area, they always behave like this. People in this age group, they do like this. These are all theories, matas, that can change according to the perception of the person who advocates the mata. According to me, it is like that. According to you, it will be somebody else. But that is mata. But if it is tattva, that is truth. Nobody can deny that. Nobody can feel it otherwise. It has to be experienced that way and that way only. There's no second opinion about it. So again, one of the important concepts is Advaita Vedanta is the concept of Jivan Mukta. One who becomes Mukta in this very birth itself. And this is very special to Advaita Vedanta. Because to the other schools of Vedanta, like Bhakti schools, etc., they do not really very elaborately discuss this concept at all. Their area is Bhagavan Sakshatkar, Bhagavan ka Sannidhya. Then always, even beyond death also, to become a Kinkara, to do Kainkarya to Bhagavan, be in his presence, Sayujya, Samipya, all those kinds of ideas, associations. So they do not directly so much dwell on this idea of Jivan Mukti. But Advaita is very emphatic. Because you see, there in all these Dvaita schools, etc., always the distinction between the Bhagavan and the Bhakta is always maintained. So there is no question of merger, or there is no question of completely one getting rid of anything. Then there is no other quest for such a person. For that Bhakta is to be always in the presence of the Lord, always to be in a complete self-surrender, prapatti, at the highest kind of surrender. So many attitudes are spoken of. But specifically, the very strong idea of Jivan Mukti, liberation in this very birth itself, that is not emphasized and that is not so much spoken of. But in Advaita, that's a very strong concept where one is liberated from the bonds of samsara completely, so that no more there is birth for a person who is a Jivan Mukta. This is the last and final birth for a Jivan Mukta. After that, there won't. Because when all the bondages due to Ajnana are released, then, for such a person, the bandhana usually occurs because of mistaking the Atman for the Anatman, as we already saw. And then because of that, he consequently gets into samsara, etc. And the freedom will arise only because of when you are free from this ajnana, or you are completely, you erase or you get rid of this ajnana. And once that happens, here it should happen here and now in this life itself, leading to the liberation from the samsara. This alone will make the moksha, or the idea of mukti, very valuable to the individual. So in Advaita Vedanta, it insists on the concept of Jivan Mukti. Such a mukti is actually, it is in a detailed way, extensively in the pages of this work, as in other works, they are greatly discussed. So, what happens to Jivan Mukta? There is another point. They will continue to live as long as the prarabdha, which has already started its fruits. जो प्रारब्ध कर्म आरंभ हो गया, वो खत्म होने तक वो रहेंगे तब तक, बिकॉज वो नया कुछ उनका संस्कार नहीं बनता है और पुराना बाकी सब खत्म हो गया. All the accumulated samskaras of previous births, excepting the prarabdha which has already started bearing fruit, all have been wiped out, and he does not acquire any new sanskara at all, because he no longer has the idea, I am the karta or I am the doer, but whatever is the prarabdha which has already started bearing fruit, that he would complete. So once that happens, then he becomes Videha Mukta. When the body is given, he is given up body, and afterwards there is no more rebirth or coming back to this world. Of course, the Shastra is in our tradition. There are wonderful such yoga muktas like Sukadeva, then Vamadeva, Prahlada, many others, even in the recent times, Sadashiva Brahmendra, Ramana Maharshi, the author also quotes the name of Swami Vivekananda, and many others. It is our histories, there are a good number of such Jivan Muktas who have lived in the world. So, the path of jnana, which is strongly advocated in this text or in this Advaita sadhana, the path of jnana is the main approach to the highest goal. This involves tremendous mental disciplines and which are absolutely uncompromising. आप किसी वक्त उसका कोई तरह compromise समझौता नहीं करना चाहिए, and you have to be very strict about those mental disciplines. The sadhana chatushtaya, nitya nitya vastu viveka iha mutta phalabhoga viraga sharadamani sampatti moksha. The sadhana chatushtaya not only includes the discrimination between nitya and anitya, the eternal and the transient, but also the moral disciplines of a high order, among which vairagya or non-attachment to material things is the foremost. So these are four chatushtayas. First is nitya nitya vastu viveka, the discrimination between the eternal and the unreal or the temporary, that vichara. Side by side, it insists on a tremendous sense of vairagya. Of course, see, they are not connected to each other. These four chatushtayas are not completely independent. Unless you have vairagya, it's not possible for you to do this vichara at all. Only vairagya will lead you to truly discriminate between real and unreal. If you are completely attached to so many things, how is it possible for us to discriminate between real and unreal? We are clinging to the unreal, so to say body, other possessions, our relatives, our son, our daughter, whatever it is. We are terribly attached to say some things. So in that state of mind, is it really possible to do the discrimination between the real and the unreal? Obviously, it's not possible. So this nitya nitya vastu viveka is to be backed up by a tremendous spirit of vairagya. Then only those of vairagya, they can see why Sri Ramakrishna, if you see in his life, how you could just, mother, this is your fame, this is your this thing. I surrender both to you. This is your bhalo, this is your mandra, this is your good, this is your bad. Everything he could give because he had no attachment to anything. Everything he surrendered to Ma, take everything. Give me only pure devotion. I don't want anything else. So how could anyone give up everything? Unless one has great vairagya. So vairagya was so dominant in his life. That is why this Vedanta Vichara is said to be possible only for those who are completely given up everything, and then such people do not have to perform even the Nitya Naimitya Karma. Because they are always afraid, these Advaita Vedantics are always afraid of this karma. The moment you do work, immediately you will get attached. There will be a karta and bhokta, and the doer and the enjoyer. Then there is a subject-object duality. So they constantly advocate, no, never get into this bondage of doing and not doing. Completely stay away. Don't do any work, not even your religious duties, not even your nitya naimitya karmas like that. Of course, again, Shukracharya said earlier also, other acharyas also said, up to such a stage of one's life, one has to do all that. When one is little advanced in life, when one is slowly established, then there is enough vairagya, there are enough other qualities, then you are intensely doing that vichara. At that point of time onwards, one has to completely give up all that and then concentrate only on the higher aspects and not be involved in anything. So, of course, the conditions are very rigorous, but the fruit at the end is also very wonderful. You have such peace, such joy, such fulfillment, you won't require anything. You are so fulfilled. Supposing you are so full inside, you have a big plate of so many nice eatables. No, I am full. I don't even want to look at anything because I am so full inside. Similarly, a person of that kind of highest experience, he does not require anything. So full in his joy, in his experience. So he says, Vivekachudamani says again and again that the Shishya harboring anatma vasanas in his mind and getting into grips is in for great trouble. Says never allow this anatma vasana to come into you. The whole problem is because of mistaking the Atman for the Anatman, and the Anatma vasanas related to those which are Anatman, that is what is troubling. So please don't get into it. Is again and again he cautions the Shishya. So the are difficult to overcome these are because the strength acquired because of the numerous births. The vasanas that we have, they are not exactly from this birth. So many births we have gone through, and the tremendous vasanas we have acquired earlier, they come up again and again in our mind and again trouble us. So they have very strong foothold. They are deeply entrenched in our personality because of past births. So this can be got rid of only by consistent and persistent culture of Atma Vasana. As against Anatma Vasana, you must practice the love of the Atma. Love of the Atman, the result of it, what joy it will produce, how important it is for me to get in that state. So you develop strong Atma Vasana and drive away the Anatma Vasana of so many births, and slowly that is how you can go forward in this journey. And then say some places it says it may not be possible to do even in one life. It may take more than one life. That's why in Gita says Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Man Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sugurlabha Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Man Prapadyate. After many births, even the Jnanavan, they realize me, they know about me. So it may be the result of so many births. So many janmas may be required to drive away the anatma vasanas, etc. But the person who has got it, if great personages they have become jivan muktas in their present lives, it may be that they have done everything in their past life, only a little remain to be done in this birth, and then they have been gradually progressing, diminishing their vasanas, and that is how they could bring to a complete extinction of all the vasanas in their mind. So, of course, we can also feel in our earlier births we have done much of it, only some remains to be done. So, we will work hard in this birth so that we get to that condition. We need not feel that so many births, it is still there. How can I do it in this birth? No, we may be like that. You might have done much in the previous birth. That is why we have come here. That is why we are doing in this birth. If you do intensely, it's possible. You may get it in this birth also. And also it is not exactly like that. That kind of calculations, they are not necessary, may not be meaningful also. He himself says, if you have the grace of a guru, such a guru can kind of fast track your experience, take you forward much faster. In our case, our Guru, ultimate Guru, Sri Ramakrishna himself, one of the greatest of Brahmagyanas, was immersed in Brahmagyana for 8 months like that, in Niveka Samadhi. So because we have access to such a Guru, it is possible he may burn away the samskaras of previous births. Is it not? In the Guru Stotra it comes, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwar, Aneka Janma Samprapta Karmendhana Vidahine Atma Jnana Pradhanene Tasmai Sri Gurave. Aneka Janma Samprapta. Whatever I have acquired in so many births, you burn them away, just as fire burns wood by giving the Atma Jnana. So it's not necessary that we'll have to wait so many births. In this birth itself, if you work hard, it's possible one may get the highest Brahmajnana because the grace of a great Guru is always there. That's possible. And then see, there's no, in this Vivekachudamani you will find that there's no mention of any personal God. There's no upasana, because they deal with completely non-dual philosophy. So actually, even in the Advaita Vedanta, if you see, there are two ideas of Brahman they speak of, the Saguna Brahman and the Nirguna Brahman. That is a Brahman with qualities and then one without rupa or qualities, Nirguna, without any guna. So the ultimate truth, the highest truth is the Nirguna Brahman. That is also declared in so many passages, etc. From point of view, is Nirguna Brahman is the highest, is a transcendental that is belonging to the Atindriya Jagat. It's also called the Paramarthika, that is super sensuous, and it relates to that because it has none of the features of the empirical world. This world and whatever we do in Vyavahara, it's all called Vyavaharika. So Advaita also talks of two ideas, Paramarthika Satya and Vyavaharika Satya. Paramarthika is the highest transcendental truth. Vyavaharika is what is related to the existential world of the transactional world. Another point of view, this can be called immanent, the other can be called transcendental or beyond. So ultimately, there's nothing like false or total mithya or anything. The same transcendental, ultimate nirguna, that aspect, in some form, in some way, somehow, that appears as the immanent or the Vyavaharika world or the transcendental world. If you take it like that, there is nothing to be completely rejected or completely taken off as absolutely meaningless. So the world is actually is aropita, is imposed, is superimposed on Brahman. Brahman in its real aspect is Nirgun Nirakar. It is neither Rupa nor Guna. But somehow the world or the Prapancha is an Aropita Satya, is an imposed reality on Brahman. The Brahman is his Adhisthana or the foundation, and as such, the world is only in reality is Brahman appearing in a different form with name and fame, etc. Name and form. When the Nirguna Brahman is seen as a Saguna, with the power to start the cosmic process of creation, etc., it is called the Ishvara. The same highest Nirguna Brahman, which is transcendental, which is beyond name and form, etc., when it is just the next level, about to start the process of creation, etc., the same truth is called Ishvara. And then, in essence, is not from Nirguna Brahman. So that is why Sarvam Kalu Ida Brahman, I am Sarvam Kalu Idam Brahman, and I am Atma Brahma. They are all only the philosophically they are expressing the religious truth of immanence of God in all things, in all men. So that is, they appear as discrete entities, but in terms of the divinity embedded them, they are actually the visible expressions of the ultimate truth. So, what we see as Jagat or the world is only the same truth, the same Brahman, the highest truth, appearing as name and form in some way or other. Kaise hua we cannot, it is there, that is for truth, that is certain. So, in a sense, there is no need to completely reject this world as totally false or anything. This can be realized or felt as the highest Brahman manifesting in a form to be easily understood by everyone as the world with name and form and so on. So what is the difference between the two is the way we approach it, the way we conceive it, the way we understand it, whether it is ultimately they all represent the one and the same truth. So the idea is to ultimately through jnana understand the highest reality. By it can be done in any way. But if you approach it through the Ishvara or the world, then you have to take the path of bhakti, which makes all this meaningful, and then ultimately reach the highest. Or you completely start negating everything, have the approach of jnana, constantly do the vichara, constantly question with logic, you can also realize the highest truth as the Nirguna Brahman. So the IAs, the Advaita Acharyas traditionally have consistently insisted, laid emphasis more and more on the Nirguna Brahman. The Brahman which is without any attribute, without any nama, without rupa, etc. That is how. So the transcendental aspect of reality or the Nirguna Brahman. But the Acharyas and the other schools like Bhakti schools, etc., they have emphasized more and more the immanent aspect, the God prevalent in the entire universe, Brahman appearing as name and form for the sake of the devotees or for the sake of convenience of practice, etc. They have emphasized more and more that aspect. So, in that sense, you can also say that Swamiji, based on Thakur's realizations, etc., he has also emphasized more and more on the immanent aspect of reality. The idea that world is to be completely rejected, world is completely false, you find very rarely it is mentioned in the gospel or in many of our literatures like that. So Thakur always used to say, it is all only mother appearing in so many forms, or the Brahman appearing in so many forms. So the benefit of this approach is, supposing you take to the idea of the highest Advaita, if that is your basic belief, and if you do that sadhana, one requires the type of tremendous mental disciplines and the extraordinary sense of vairagya which the Acharya Shukra speaks about. Because, you see, how can you negate everything as untrue? I am in this world, I am participating, I have a family, I have a relationship, I have a work, I am doing something. All that has to be completely negated mentally, even when you do vichara, as absolutely untrue and unreal. And then only you proceed in the path of that Nirguna Brahman. Whereas if you accept this idea of Swamiji, he says the world it's all God appearing in so many forms. That's what when Swamiji wanted to remain absorbed in Nirvikalpa Samadhi all the time, Sri Ramakrishna scolded him and said, why do you say that? Don't you sing that song? Whatever you see, everything is God only. The God is appearing in front of you in so many forms. Why don't you take that approach? So that is a more convenient approach, at least to start with our journey. Instead of thinking that everything is false, I am living in a false world, I am pursuing a false life, I am pursuing a life of Nitya, I am unnecessarily entangled in everything. Constantly, instead of feeling that way, if one can have that kind of tremendous mental strength and vairagya, yes, it's possible. People have realized truth that way also. If you are so determined, I'm not going to look at the world. It's not going to deceive me. If you are determined, if you have that tremendous vairagya, and that with Nitya, Nitya, Vastu, Viveka, you can definitely proceed in that path. But for lesser martyrs, for those who are not capable of that kind of highest vairagya you want to start with, accepting the world as manifestation of Brahman in another form and not considering as totally unreal, considering as the manifestation of God or the creation of God, then that gives a meaning to your sadhana, your pursuit, your existence, everything becomes meaningful. With that idea, you constantly do. I am worshipping God in this form, in the form of work, in the form of my family, in the form of faith, no, in the form of my other participation. There also you require. That doesn't mean that you don't require any vairagya, you don't require any discipline. You need all that. But there's some concession. Supposing you want to take something, you offer it to God. Take it as prasada. It's Bhagavan's prasada. This no longer remains as a eatable. It doesn't remain a rasagulla. It remains Bhagavan's prasada. You take it. Like that, there are some small little concession for lesser minds. But in this life also, if that is also done with tremendous intensity, it's possible at one point of time. That's why Thakur says, if you are truly dependent on God, Mother herself will give you that Brahmajnana at one point of time. So if you do like that, with great intensity, even if you pursue this, at one point of time, all this would lose their significance. All this would lose their meaning, even in Karma Yoga. The more and more you intensely do it, at one point of time, when you're completely exhausted, then it would dawn on you, yes, all this was done only for my own chitta shuddhi. In such a pure mind, there will be a revelation of the highest truth, and then you give up your work, give up your other thing, give up your participation, you take to complete vairagya, you totally freed from everything. That state is possible. But to start with, one can begin this way, having a trust that all this is God only in appearing in so many forms, and that gives you a tremendous sense of strength. Even as I don't have to feel that it's all mithya. You go and do relief work, go and do some school, you are teaching children, so many children are getting benefit, you are feeding the poor, running in a hospital, maybe you are doing a bhaksaman, you are devoted. Everything, you bring a meaning into all your activities. Everything becomes a pursuit of God, a seva in that sense, a pursuit of the ultimate, a pursuit of the truth. So with great intensity you participate. Again, there also the idea, I am the karta, I am the bhokta, all that should be kept away. I am the enjoyer, I am the doer. Karmanye vadivarasti mahapulesh kadatni is applicable there also. But at the same time, as a servant of God, as a follower of God, as someone who has surrendered the feet of the God, that way, believing in God or Ishvara, one can do intensely this kind of participation so that one's chitta becomes pure, and ultimately that highest knowledge will dawn on such minds also. They will also realize the highest truth. So, the Vivekachudamani, the approach is, it's an intellectual approach by analysis, because you will see consistently as we read the text, it's an approach by analysis. It's only the Brahman appearing manifold in name and form as Jiva and Jagat. To be clearly told in this approach that Jiva and Jagat, the world and the individual, this world, they are only Brahman appearing as so many manifold Jiva and Jagat. So, when you remove from the Jagat all the upadhis or whatever is attached to it, similarly from the Jiva, all the limitations such as I am this, I am that, I am born, I am young, I am old, I am man, I am all those upadhis are totally removed, then both will stand as such, then both will be nothing but pure consciousness, and both will be nothing but Brahman. So the whole process, the idea is to remove from the world both actually from Brahman, the avarana and the vikshepa shakti, the covering that has happened due to ajnana, and the vikshepa that has again happened over the Brahman to ajnana. If both are removed, then the true Brahman shines in its own glory. There's only this consciousness. So this is to be, it's not just the point is, this is not a mere intellectual analysis. It's not enough if you just understand it by buddhi. One can go and give a great lecture in Advaita Vedanta and can be the most worldly person. One can write a great book on Advaita Vedanta. It can be the worst rogue. So that does not mean anything. Intellectually, if you have ability, you can understand. That's why Dr. Maharaj was an unlettered person. Vivekananda was the most brilliant person. But both were Advaita Jnanis because both had realized. Dr. Maharaj's experience of the highest was no less than that of Vivekananda. Both had the same experience. But one person could express, read, write, give lectures, etc. One person would hardly speak. He was always quiet. Only to very limited, close disciples he would speak, and he would speak the highest truth in a most wonderful form. Because it was from Anubhuti. He had no capacity, he had never read a book. He was an unlettered person. But when you speak, he would give the highest knowledge. Because he had literally experienced it himself. He knew what it was. So his language was the language of a person who had the experience. So that is the difference. So that is why the Shishya, when he in the one point of time he will say, when I give away all the koshas, etc., I see only the sunya. But slowly, after doing away all that, after intense sadhana, finally he gives highest expression, the ecstasy due to Brahmagyan. So, at the same time, the idea of the highest truth does not work against the existential reality of the individual body and the world for vyavaharik purpose. For the sake of transaction, for the sake of our daily living, this body and the world are all there. But the highest knowledge would not, stand in the way of that. But when the Jivan Mukta comes back to external consciousness, from the highest idea of samadhi, from the highest idea of that experience, when he comes back to the external world, he does not completely lose his body or this and that. He is very much that person. Thakur was there before that experience, after that is also there. He was, the difference between this enlightenment was, before his view was different. The world view completely changed after his realization. He again saw the same temple, kosha, kochi, flowers, flower pot and the pushpa patra, everything, they were all there before and after. Here it was all Chaitanya only. You could clearly see, you would say, as if Chaitanya is peeping out from pillowcases. Barisher kolte ke sab ukhi mat in Bengali. The Chaitanya is peeping out from the pillowcases. So you could see that, you could clearly see that all this external world was Chaitanya covered with something else. Before, you could see the external world as it is. It looked, that's, something like, when you see something with a normal light, it looks like a simply body or simply a substance. When you use X-ray or all that MRI, etc., what is inside is penetrated and completely realized. So a person of the highest jnana, he clearly sees that outwardly all these look like that, but inside there is nothing but the highest consciousness of the Chaitanya. It's very, very difficult even to imagine this, but the reality is, such people, they never lose touch with the highest consciousness or the highest reality. They're always in touch with that. So that is the difference. Once you have that jnana, once you have that highest experience, how is it that the same world does not bother you? Previously used to be so affected, because you never lose track of that consciousness or that supreme reality once you realize the highest. That is why your whole life becomes totally of a different quality. Brahmajnani also eats, he also sleeps, he also drinks water, he also maybe takes bath. But his life, his understanding of all these actions of life are totally different. That is the difference. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna